Well, welcome, Seymour parents. Thank you for tuning in to our virtual or on-demand orientation and open house. I really do appreciate the fact that you've taken time to watch this, that you are fully investing yourself in what our ministry is doing and getting this information for your family. And I do hope that this is helpful for you. I'll say right from the very get-go that doing some sort of on-demand orientation is new. This is not something we've tried before. So I will do my best to be clear, but keep it simple and only review the information that's necessary. And at different points, I'll mention the fact that my contact information is in the materials or included in the materials that you're receiving. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, to call me, to text me, whatever works best for you. But let's go ahead and jump in. What I'll do is I'll explain as we go, assuming that you have the PDF of the orientation material in front of you. And most of it should really be self-explanatory. So I'll just make some notes along the way that might explain and clarify what we're doing. So when you open up the PDF that is included with this orientation video, you'll notice that right from the beginning is a letter to all of our families that just explain the some of the goals that we have for our youth ministry here at Seymour, some of the objectives we have, gives you just a quick note of what we're about and what we're hoping to achieve through the different events and activities that we have planned. We do our very best to be planned and purposeful and intentional about everything we do. So it's thought through, and we do it for a reason, and we have specific goals that we have for each event, even if it's something silly and funny, or if it's a Nerf war or a worship night. Everything is carefully thought through and planned for a specific purpose. And if you want to know what those are, you can read that in the introductory letter. So as you go through, the next thing that you will come to, it says a registration form and medical release. Let me explain this. One of our goals this year is to do the very best we can to communicate with families. That's one of the reasons why this year, to begin our year, we're even offering 3 different orientation opportunities, because we want to start off communicating the best that we can. We do expect and embrace this to be a year like no other. We are using that as kind of our mantra to correspond with an adventure theme that we're doing this year. That a lot of our activities are going to be adventure oriented, because we know this is not going to be a year like any other, but that doesn't mean that we can't do meaningful ministry and again have this make a big impact in the lives of our students and your children. And we want to see them flourishing spiritually. And so that is our hope, that is our goal. But we do realize that there might be obstacles along the way. We experienced this last spring and last summer, and sometimes we might have to make last minute adjustments. We have a skeleton plan put together, but some of the details are still yet to be worked out, just because we simply don't know what October looks like for us, what November looks like for us, what December, and then onward into the year. So we need to make sure that we have good means and channels of communication with parents and families and students. And so you'll notice right from the beginning on the registration form that we ask for a lot of information, as far as there's the basics, name, address, and so forth. But we're looking to make sure that we have an up-to-date and accurate database of parent cell phones, student cell phones, parent email addresses, and student email addresses. Because if we need to communicate something, for example, if we're doing an event on Sunday and some of the details are changing and we didn't have time to get that all out in advance, we need to make sure that if we send out a text message blast and an email blast to all of our families, that you will get that information. So that is very much a concern for us this year. And so all of that is listed. So we do ask that you take time and fill that out and return that as soon as possible, so that way we can make sure that not only do we have the important emergency information on hand for all of our students, but we have up-to-date contact information for both parents and students. You'll see that reflected there. There's also a offsite permission form. This just is a general form to cover all of our activities that don't happen right on the Seymour Church property. There might be, for example, this past Sunday, our high school group did our camping theme night at Kevin and Lynn Helder's home. That would be an example, excuse me, of an off-site activity. If we were going to do a snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or sledding in the winter time, or anything like that, that would be covered in that. Now, if it's going to be something a little bit beyond that, like a summer mission trip or a fall or winter retreat, you might see an additional permissions slip or liability waiver for those, but this just covers our general activities. After that, you're going to see a ministry schedule for both middle school and high school that will cover the fall months, so September all the way up through until December. Again, this is a skeleton plan that we've put together to try to make sure that we can plan meaningful ministry opportunities that we feel have the greatest success of actually happening. We don't want to have a repeat of the spring and the summer months where a lot of what we planned and had hoped to do was getting canceled. And so we wanted to provide something to say, yes, we're going to do this. If we have the ability to then expand on that, that would be wonderful. But right now, we want to make sure that we really do have a plan for keeping all of our students and families connected and part of the youth ministry here at Seymour, and have the greatest chances of succeeding in making sure that each and every one of these things can and will happen. So starting off in September, what I guess I'm going to encourage each family to do is take some time, look through the ministry schedule. Everything should be self-explanatory, but I'll make mention of a few things here, and then you can follow up if you have any questions. The schedule for September will look a little bit different from October, November, and December. And the reason is, right now, what we know is that in September, we are, as a church, Seymour is meeting outside on Sunday mornings. And so our ministry schedule reflects that. That after, for both our middle school and our high school group, after our outdoor services, we will have an opportunity for our two groups to meet on the lawn of the Zukasa after the outdoor service. So we're anticipating that families are already bringing their own lawn chairs for the outdoor service, so we're encouraging our students to bring their chairs over to the Zukasa, and then our volunteers will be able to facilitate the activities. All those activities at this time are happening outdoors, and so the same sort of practices, that social distance practices and health practices that we're having for our outdoor services apply for what we're doing for our youth ministry there. We will have some sort of snacks available. I'm thinking ahead to Sunday. It's going to be chilly out. I'm hoping that we can fire up our hot cocoa machine and have some hot cocoa all ready to go for our middle school and high school students. But that's what's going to be happening on Sunday mornings while we continue to meet outside. Once, if and when the Seymour begins to resume worship in person indoors, that plan might change a little bit, and that's why we want to have that those good channels of communication established, so that way when we know what's going to happen, you will then know exactly what's going to happen. But we are making sure that we are providing some sort of learning and spiritual growth opportunities for our students, even though we don't know what Sunday mornings are going to look like. Typically, that's been our Sunday school time in years past. We want to make sure that we still have a plan, we still have lessons we're going to do, and whether those happen together as a group or whether that's something that I send out to families and to students, we want to make sure that that's there. And it's also something that can be used and adapted depending on what the situation and circumstances look like. For example, our middle school group will be going through a study through the Bible Project from the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts. It's a phenomenal study that's put together in video format that really explains the meaning and how to correctly read and understand the way that Luke wrote both the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts. So I encourage you, if you have an opportunity, when these links go out, take a look at them. I have enjoyed watching the videos myself. For our high school group, we are going to be taking the fall months and learning about prayer and growing in our prayer life. We started this past week with a YouVersion, which is a Bible app that you can get on your phone or your computer. It's a YouVersion reading plan that we are all doing together that provides a devotional reading, some scripture readings, and then an opportunity to reflect and share comments together. And it's called Dangerous Prayers, and it's based on a book by Craig Groeschel, and I have a copy of it right here that I can hold up for you. That will then continue so that the Bible reading plan that we're doing right now through YouVersion actually introduces this book, and then we'll continue to go through that together through the fall months and grow and I truly believe be challenged in our prayer life and perhaps think about how we engage and practice prayer in ways that we might not have thought about before. I had an opportunity this past summer to preview the Bible reading plan and the book ahead of time. And for me personally, I found it incredibly challenging. And I'm excited to work through this and engage with this book with our students and see how the Holy Spirit uses that to challenge all of us as we grow together. So those are the materials that we'll be using for both our middle school and our high school group in the fall months. That is reflective of what we would normally do on a Sunday morning. Now, even though we're not certain of what our Sunday morning will look like, we do have, again, a skeleton plan put together for our Sunday evenings. We are going to continue our practice of having a second and fourth Sunday high school night on Sunday evenings and a third Sunday middle school night on Sunday evenings. You'll see that reflected in you look through the fall middle school and the fall high school schedules. Those nights are listed. The time is listed. And if it's going to happen offsite, we'll make sure to communicate that to you far in advance. But you'll at least have an idea of what the theme of the night is. If there's a special activity that's involved with it, you'll be aware of that. But you'll know the times and be able to mark those on your calendars. So a good example of this, I can speak in past tense because we had our first high school theme night this past Sunday. We did it off-site, again, at the Helder's property back in the woods near their home. We did a campfire, and we're able to eat outdoors, roast marshmallows, have s'mores, and do all of our discussion and our meeting time outside there. With this, in each night having its own theme. That was a camping theme. Coming up, we have some nights that are lumberjack theme, where we're asking everyone to come dressed as lumberjacks, and we're actually going to be making pancakes outside. And then, what's one of the other ones? Oh, and then in October, appropriately, we're having a great pumpkin theme night where our groups will be carving pumpkins together. So just a couple ideas of what's coming up there. You can look through those. And then following the middle school and high school fall schedule, you'll see a template for what the winter will look like. Just a few, not a lot of details, but just a few dates to put on your calendar to remember. I'll highlight a couple of those for you that I think need a little extra explanation. You'll note here that on January 23rd and 24th, we are making plans to do an overnight winter retreat for our high school students. We're planning this retreat in conjunction with Camp Henry. I've been talking with them about how they can help us to facilitate and do a winter retreat. We're hoping by doing this in late January that that some of the current restrictions will have been lifted, and that as a whole in our local area and our state, that some of the health concerns that we're planning around right now won't be as much of a concern, and that this will be something that our students and families will be comfortable engaging with. So that's our hope. And talking with Camp Henry, they're on the same page as us, and they feel that this is something that we can do. Now, along with that, I do recognize that there are going to be different levels of comfort with different families right now. We're trying to do our very best to make sure that everyone is cared for, both as far as their physical health, their emotional health, their spiritual health, and taking all of those things in consideration. Making sure that when we say that the health and safety and well-being of all of our students is not just something we say, but it's reflected in all of our practices that we do. But being aware also that some families might not feel comfortable making a commitment to send their daughter or their son on an overnight retreat. And so Camp Henry has been very gracious in allowing us to formulate this plan, but not formally sign a contract that commits us to this retreat until October 2nd. And so later on in the packet of information that you received, there is a registration form for our winter retreat, and you'll see on that registration form that there's a deadline of October 2nd, and that provides us with the ability to say that we have a go or no-go date for the retreat based on the how comfortable families feel with this idea. So if you have any questions regarding that retreat, please let me know and we can go over some of the details. I did try to give an outline of that in the registration form. We do have a maximum participant for the retreat of 30 people right now. That's typically that's not limits that we haven't faced in years past. That's just the limits of the buildings that we'll be using. But in order to do the retreat, we have to have a certain critical mass of students for this to be able to work for the retreat center as well. So right now, our goal is to have 20 of our high school students participating in the retreat. We could probably still do the retreat if we have 16 students sign up, but below that, if we don't have the enough participation, we won't be able to do it. So I guess all that to say, please fill those forms out, return them to me with a deposit, so that way we can know if this is something that our group is able to do this year. So that is on there. We also have our faith formation and mission trip auction fundraiser planned again. Last year it was planned for middle to late March, and it was canceled and ultimately postponed a year because of the onset of coronavirus. We are planning it for around the same time frame this year. You'll see it reflected there. It's right now the date is Saturday, March 20th. That is a firm date. So please mark that in your calendars. And I imagine that there's questions that go along with it to say, well, does this mean we're doing a mission trip, or does this mean we're doing something this summer? And the answer to that is yes, we will be doing something. We are planning a trip for our high school group next summer. We're trying to work out the details of that. It's taking a little bit longer than we would have liked, but please be patient with us. We will make sure to communicate that to you as soon as we have it. So then some of the other dates for the winter and spring are on there. go ahead, take a look, mark them on your calendar, and if you have any questions, please let me know. The next item, when you're scrolling through the packet of information you'll receive, it will be titled Draft Youth Ministry COVID-19 Safety Plan. Now, this is something that's really important that we talk about together, because obviously there are a lot of very strong feelings, strong concerns, worries, hopes, and fears surrounding not only the idea that we have this COVID-19 pandemic that we're navigating through together, but also that there's a lot of concerns about how this is impacting our church, impacting our lives, impacting our students. And so before I dive into reviewing this plan with you, I do want to say a few things. Number one, I know that I haven't done this perfectly, but I have truly tried to, over the past 2 months, to listen well to the concerns of our families who have strong feelings and share differing perspectives on the best response to COVID-19 and what is the very best for our students and our families and our churches. And so I've tried to listen very well and to formulate a plan that reflects our commitment to the physical health, the spiritual health, and the emotional health of all of our students, from a desire to see them flourishing in their lives and in their faith, and reflects our thoughtful consideration of our families to put together a plan that allows the most, I guess you say, that allows as many students as possible to be engaged in what we're doing. And so with that, I acknowledge that that's a difficult task. It has been very hard to put that together. And I do realize that any plan that's put together that addresses safety concerns around COVID-19, it's not going to make everybody happy. And so I know that. I readily acknowledge that. And so I guess what is important for me is that everyone feels heard, feels listened to, and feels that the concerns that they have surrounding COVID are being validated and thoughtfully considered. So if you listen and read through this and you have concerns, I've included my email address and my cell phone, and I just want to invite you to reach out. However it works best for you. Send me an email, send me a text message, give me a call, so that way we can talk through that together. So let's review this, and then you can follow up if you've got any questions. The title reflects the fact that this ministry plan is actually still in draft status. I put it together using information that I received from Yale Divinity School's Youth Ministry Institute. I've also used some of the resources that were provided from the Kent County Health Department, and also looked at what other churches, not only in our area, but in other areas around the United States were doing to try to put together something that is a good plan that allows us to move forward doing ministry together that is accessible to as many of our families as possible, and really takes into consideration that our students that are being cared for, like I said, that their physical well-being, their emotional, and their spiritual well-being are all being thoughtfully considered. So it is still draft status because I haven't had an opportunity to present this to our full church council yet to get approval, and so that's noted and reflected in this. But basically, it starts off by saying that our youth programming will continue to closely listen to and follow recommendations that come from the CDC, from the Kent County Health Department, as far as how we are sanitizing, how we are practicing, have safe practices put in place, the size of our gathering, social distancing, and requirements. So we'll continue to learn and stay informed, and perhaps make adjustments as needed. We also state that we are going to do our best for our youth programming to maintain safe operational practices and procedures for deep cleaning and sanitizing the spaces that we use. The next item on the list talks about how all staff, volunteers, and youth should wear wear face coverings and maintain a 6-foot physical distance whenever gatherings are indoors, or close social interaction is involved outdoors. Those who live within the same household can be considered a family unit and can be within 6 feet of one another, and that we will provide face coverings for all youth and adults who arrive without one. The next item on the list really corresponds with that because we want to provide as much interaction as possible. We are going to keep our gatherings outdoors to try to lessen some of the safety concerns, and make the overall feel of the communication and the interaction a little bit more open for everyone. So we're trying to keep as many of our gatherings outdoors as possible. That perhaps might even be reflected in the winter months, where we'll do a sledding trip or cross-country skiing or something like that. Skating at Rosa Parks Circle are all ideas that are on the table. And these are things we would have already considered and done in the past anyway, but we're just being a little bit more intentional about planning meaningful experiences for our groups that are allowed or that can be accommodated outdoors. Also, we are trying to maintain a practice because of that. We're planning that all youth trips, outings, and mission trips, if possible, should not involve communal travel and be kept within a 30-minute driving distance. So basically, we're saying because packing, as many high school or middle school students into a small vehicle to transport them to an event is not a best practice right now. And so we want to make sure that it's accessible, assuming that either family units are going to be driving to these activities. We don't want to plan them too far away. So the max drive distance would be, or travel distance would be 30 minutes. Ideally, we would like to keep it within 15 minutes. The only other exception to the communal travel is for our winter retreat. But again, we're hopeful that by the time the winter retreat is upon us, that we can that we'll be able to utilize 15 passenger vans with limited seating capacity to transport our group up to the retreat center. A little note that we'll maintain a disciplined practice of registering or accounting for youth expected to attend indoor events or retreats, and use that to monitor the signups. Basically, this is just to say if we're doing something indoors with a retreat center or another facility that has some sort of limitation on the number of people that can be there, that we're aware of those limitations and that we're keeping track of how many people are signing up, so that way we can be in good communication. We don't have a situation where we exceed that capacity and have to make some of those hard decisions about, okay, what do we do now? Can somebody participate? Can they not? We just don't want to find ourselves in that position. So if we're trying to get doing a better job of getting head counts this year, just understand that that's not to make an inconvenience for you, but that's just so we can do a better job planning and providing ministry opportunities for as many people as possible. We are asking parents to just do basic monitoring and screening for symptoms before students participate in youth activities. If you have any questions or concerns, if you're just wondering, I'm not sure what I should do. It's Sunday. It's 3:00. Are these symptoms? Do they exclude my child from being able to participate? If you have any of those questions, again, I put my cell phone down here. Just give me a call and we can talk through that and make a good decision. A lot of these symptom checks are the same ones that are being utilized by a number of different organizations and local schools. The only change or revision that we made that I want to note here is that using a sore throat as a symptom that would prevent somebody from participating. We actually made one small revision, that a sore throat in conjunction with any other symptom. And I'll explain why we did that. We are asking that families take these symptoms seriously and adhere to this. But we also recognize that we have students who have allergies, or even I myself might find my throat hoarse and hurting after doing a lot of talking on a Sunday night. But those are symptoms that can, that we realize that makes sense. Of course, my throat's going to hurt, or if it's in the spring or the fall months and we're doing some hiking outside, I expect to wake up the next morning and have my throat hurt a little bit. And so we're asking, if a sore throat's in conjunction with any other symptom, that would be reason to have a student remain home or not participate in that particular activity. So we will also practice taking attendance at youth gatherings. This will include youth and adults that are in attendance. But we're trying to do this in a way that doesn't make a big to-do about it. A good example of that would be this past Sunday. We didn't have a sign-in form or a formal attendance taken, but after everyone arrived and we were all there on site, I simply took a few minutes and just used my phone to make attendance records for who was there. And the reason is, if we ever do have a positive case of COVID, that we can then notify families that there was a positive case of COVID, a positive confirmed case, and that this person was in attendance at a youth event with your son or daughter. And so that communication can happen, and we'll know who was there at what particular event or lesson. We are asking the parents immediately report any confirmed case of COVID-19 to myself, so that way we can do the proper notification and contact tracing. But we also do acknowledge that this is sensitive health information, and so that doesn't mean that if you share that your child had a confirmed case of COVID, that we then share all that information with all of our youth families. That would remain confidential, but what we would share is that on this particular evening at this particular event, we did have a student who was later was tested positive for COVID-19, was at that event with your son or daughter. And then further, if there was some sort of small group activities, that would be logged and say they did participate in small group with your child. But the names and the family names won't be sent out. And then finally, there is a note that says that while youth appear based on our understanding to be less vulnerable than other age groups, some youth themselves do have a pre-existing health condition that do make them more vulnerable, and some of our youth are in regular contact with someone who is vulnerable contracting COVID-19 would be a serious health risk to them. And so we believe it's vital to continue to provide ministry opportunities for those who are not able or not comfortable to attend any in-person gatherings. So we are going to make sure that we are providing opportunities again, for as many students as possible to be engaged with what we're doing, both in person and providing other opportunities that are meaningful and significant. So that is the our COVID-19 safety plan. And then a couple other notes before I let you go. Is included with your packet is a youth ministry parent survey. This is entirely optional. You don't have to fill this out. You don't have to submit it, but we would love it if you did. This would be very helpful in getting, helping us to know you as a family, to know how how we can best communicate with you. What are your preferred means of communication? What are your hopes for this ministry year for your child? And then in the end, there's an opportunity for you as a parent to share more about your daughter or your son with us. What are their favorite hobbies? What are their interests? What are the extracurricular activities that they're involved with? What are your hopes and your dreams for your child? What do you see them doing in the future? And basically, and this is also an opportunity for you to really just brag about your child and be okay and encouraged. And then finally, there's an opportunity that if you have anything else that you'd like to mention or discuss, if you have questions or your concerns, you can actually just write them there and include them. But again, in another situation, my contact information is readily available for you as a parent. And so there's no due date for that, but we would really love it if you turn those in. We'd love to read those. And then lastly, you'll see the registration form attached for our high school winter treat. So that is everything that I wanted to review with you. All of this information will be included in this information packet. Again, lastly, the hope is that we are able to do the very best we can, given our current circumstances, to provide significant and meaningful and impactful ministry opportunities that will help your daughter or your son grow and flourish in their faith. And I hope that you really feel a sense of our desire as a youth ministry and as a church to come alongside and partner with all of our families during this year ahead to really not only say, yes, this will be a year like no other, but do the very best we can to make this a year like no other. And that is our hope, that is our desire, and that is our prayer. So we thank you for coming alongside of us as we do this together. And we look forward to talking to you and seeing you all very, very soon. Bye.